Is the Big Bang evidence for God? What are some of the latest discoveries and theories concerning the Big Bang? This is Reasonable Faith, Conversations with Dr. William Lane Craig. I'm Kevin Harris, and I want to remind you as we begin this conversation that there are many resources like this podcast available at reasonablefaith.org. Transcripts and recordings of Dr. Craig's debates on college campuses around the world, articles, questions and answers, a discussion forum, and much more. Available now at reasonablefaith.org. Dr. Craig, we've been discussing Big Bang cosmology, and right off the bat, some people of faith and some Christians find this as a threat to their faith in God or to Christianity, that somehow the Big Bang would supplant God. Is that a warranted fear?
I don't think so at all, Kevin. The Big Bang doesn't explain why the universe came into being. It's simply a description of the expansion of the universe from its original point before which nothing existed. So it doesn't itself explain why the universe exists or where it came from. You still need to have a cause of the Big Bang.
In the third edition of your book, Reasonable Faith, you expand a little bit into some of the latest theories in Big Bang cosmology. Some of those things that are coming down the pike right now and theories that are being thought over involve multiple universes, that perhaps we're not the only universe. There may be a bunch more.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the multiverse theory? Are we correct?
Right. Sometimes this is called the multiverse. Uni means one, as in unicycle. That would be just a one-wheel thing. And universe would be one world. So a multiverse would be a sort of collection of universes. Or sometimes our universe is called a pocket universe, sort of a little section of a much bigger universe. So this has become quite the rage in contemporary cosmological discussion, the notion that we may live in a multiverse and our universe is just one bubble or part of this wider reality.
And it's getting into popular literature and novels and movies as well. The book from Michael Crichton, Timeline, postulated that we do live in a multiverse. There are multiple universes, and we can't travel back in time in the one we're in, but they find a way to step over into the next one, which is very similar to this one, so similar, in fact, that you really can't even tell the difference, and you can go back in time in that one.
Oh.
So you find a way to step over into the other one. So it's gotten into popular literature as well. Are there anything to these multiverse theories?
Well, yeah, I think you have to say that there is something to them, though it's important to understand that the motivation behind the multiverse, I think, for many scientists, is to try to find an explanation for the incredible fine-tuning of the universe for intelligent life. The universe is so incomprehensibly fine-tuned for the existence of life that this cannot be simply dismissed as an accident, as due to chance. It cries out for some sort of an explanation. And if cosmologists are to avoid the G word, what they're going to do is to appeal to a world ensemble or multiverse of worlds in which all of the constants and quantities of nature vary randomly. And if there is an infinite number of these universes within the world ensemble, then by chance alone, finely tuned universes will appear somewhere in the ensemble, and the observers that exist within them will look out and see a finely tuned universe for their existence and think, gosh, there must be a designer, when in fact it's all just due to chance. So the multiverse hypothesis, for many scientists, is really an attempt to multiply your probabilistic resources so as to reduce the improbability of getting a finely tuned universe by chance. It's like saying there's not just one spin of one roulette wheel, but there are billions of roulette wheels spinning, so somewhere in the system your number's going to come up.
You mentioned the fact that if the universe had not allowed intelligent life, then we wouldn't be here to observe it and so on. We've discussed that in other programs, and you've written on that, Dr. Craig. But it brings up the anthropic principle and the weak anthropic principle. What is the difference between the two?
Well, I really don't think that there is a difference between the two. I think that the differentiation between strong and weak versions of the anthropic principle is unhelpful. What the anthropic principle basically says is that our own existence acts as a kind of selection effect upon what we can observe. Namely, we can't observe universes that are incompatible with our existence, because if it were, say, too hot or too dense or expanding too rapidly, those conditions would not be conducive to life, and so we couldn't exist to observe them. And so, by its very nature, our existence acts as a kind of selecting factor on what universes we can observe. We can only observe universes which are appropriately fine-tuned for our existence. And the anthropic principle can be used in conjunction with a world ensemble to say that in the world ensemble of randomly ordered universes, by chance alone, finely tuned universes will appear, and of course only those universes can be observed by observers. Because in all the other ones, there aren't any observers. No, there isn't any life. So by its very nature, the observers will observe finely tuned universes. And so we shouldn't really be surprised when we look out and see our universe fine-tuned for our existence. Doesn't cry out for a creator or a designer. Rather, it's just by chance, and we couldn't observe anything else.
Our observing the universe as a sort of selection process is not the same as saying we create the universe by our observation.
Right. That's absolutely correct. That would be a misunderstanding. The idea is not that our existence somehow makes the universe fine-tuned for our existence, or that our existence somehow explains why the universe is fine-tuned for our existence. And that's why the anthropic principle only works if you have a multiverse or world ensemble. You've got to have the multiverse of randomly ordered worlds that is big enough so that by chance alone, somewhere in the ensemble, a life-permitting universe will arise by chance. And then you can use the anthropic principle to tell those observers, well, look, you couldn't observe anything else, so why are you surprised? It's just by chance. So the anthropic principle alone won't do the job. It's got to be the anthropic principle plus the world ensemble or multiverse together. That's what current theorists who want to avoid the G word are appealing in order to explain the fine-tuning of the universe.
Let's go to John Leslie's firing squad illustration. I think we might can tie some of this together. Why did he give this analogy of the firing squad? What is it? How does it relate, and what is it?
Well, he gave this analogy because early on, people were trying to use the anthropic principle on its own to get rid of design. They were trying to just say, well, you oughtn't to be surprised at the fine-tuning of the universe for life, because after all, if it weren't fine-tuned, you wouldn't be here to be surprised about it. So it's no big deal. Well, Leslie said that is like being dragged in front of a firing squad of 100 trained marksmen, all with rifles, aimed at your heart at point-blank range, and you hear the command given, ready, aim, fire, and then you hear the roar of the guns. And then you observe that you're still alive, that all of the 100 marksmen missed. Now, Leslie says, what would you conclude in this case? You wouldn't be surprised that you don't observe that you're dead, because if you were dead, you couldn't observe it. So that's right. There's no surprise that you don't observe that you're dead. But you should still be surprised that you do observe that you're alive, in view of the improbability of all of these marksmen missing. Given the improbability that they would all miss, you should be very surprised that you observe that you're alive, even though you're not surprised that you don't observe that you're dead.
Yeah.
And in fact, you would probably conclude that they all missed on purpose, that it was a result of some kind of a setup engineered by someone for some reason.